Explain the functional operations of the annunciator. When you give power off, the specific all the windows will start to flash one by one, and then a sequence of flash indicating the healthiness of each individual windows. There is also a CPU healthy indication LED provided at the back side of the annunciator that will start to flash when the annunciator is active. Now, for each individual window, if there is a 220 volt DC or 110 volt DC based on the jumper selection is available, the specific window will start to flash. There will be a push button provided between acknowledge and command, test and command, reset and command of annunciator. When the acknowledge push button is pressed, the specific window will become steady and hooter will become off. For hooter, there is a potential free contact provided at the back side. This potential free contact, for testing purpose, we have given 230 volts AC to the common of the potential free contact, and from NO we have terminated to hooter phase. Neutral of the hooter is directly connected to neutral. So when the contact closes, the hooter will become on. When you press acknowledge, the contact will release, hooter will become off. This is the sequence of operation. Now let me give 220 volt DC. As for this annunciator, the fault input is selected as 220 volt DC for each individual window through this jumper. Please be careful. The selection of jumper should not be done live. The power should be switched off, and also all the fault input should be removed before selecting the jumper. Also, we have pre-configured 104 annunciators with 220 volt DC input and the balance annunciators with 110 volt DC input as per your purchase order. In case in future if you want to change any one of the annunciator as 220 volt DC input type instead of 110 volt DC type, you can do it through this jumper. But in all the cases, power should not be provided and also input should not be provided while selecting the jumper. After selecting the specific jumpers, there will be a covering plate on this annunciator which should be properly tightened. Also, there should not be a combination of input like window 1 220 volt DC, window 2 110 volt DC. In this fashion, for any annunciator it should not be selected. For any particular annunciator, the type of input should be either 220 volt DC or 110 volt DC, and there should not be a combination of input. Now let me give 220 volt DC supply to the fault input through these terminals provided at the back side. All the bottom terminals are common inputs in which the DC negative terminals are connected. You can use only one wire from the negative and loop all other wires. The first input is going to be given with 220 volt DC input. This simulator setup we made it for testing the annunciator. However, in field the direct 220 volt DC will be applied at the back side. You can check up here, 220 volt DC is applied to the window 1, and the window 1 starts to flash, and also you must have heard hooter sound. When acknowledge is pressed, the window will become steady and hooter will become off. When the 220 volt DC is absent in the annunciator input, when you press reset push button, the particular window will become off. In this fashion, each individual window can be tested, and each individual window can be provided with 220 volt DC or 110 volt DC. The push button arrangement normally provided in the panel is like this. There will be a 22.5 mm push button with NO element. The terminals from either acknowledge, test or reset will be connected at one side. Other side will be looped and connected to the common. So at the front side, when they press acknowledge, the contact will close and acknowledge input will take the input will be going to the acknowledge, window will become steady. We have made a temporary arrangement with the keypad. When you press acknowledge, test, all the windows will start to flash. When acknowledge, footer will become off, all the window will become steady, reset. This is to test the condition of the annunciator, healthy condition of the annunciator. You can also check up a series of annunciators completed and are ready for final QC testing. These annunciators are being stacked here.